There is one thing, if you are telling a story, if you have it, it will move your audience. If you don't, it can alienate your audience. It can make people bored and it can put them to sleep. So what am I talking about? First of all, I want you to imagine this, right? I live in Abu Dhabi, I live in the UAE, and there is one store that I don't go to pretty much nearly all the time, and I don't go to the ski store. Why? Because the weather here is super hot throughout the whole year, and even in winter time it's about 20 something degrees Celsius. So I'm not going skiing, so I don't go to the ski store because it's not relevant for me. It's not relevant for my needs, and that's why I don't go to the ski store. And so today we're talking about relevance, having relevant stories, because that is what is going to make people pay attention. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you to a new episode in the series Hypnotic Storytelling. In this series, I show you how to tell hypnotic stories. And today we're going to be looking at how to find relevant stories that have relevance to your audience. So let's get cracking. All right, cool. Now, people give advice all the time. Here's the thing. People give advice all the time to others. And you may do that as well. And you mean well, like when you give advice. However, if the person wasn't expecting it, wasn't wanting it, wasn't in the right mood to receive it, it's not going to go down well. It's not going to appeal to them in any way. And so they're not going to be paying attention. If you're a speaker, your audience, if you start just telling a random story, they could just tune out. And so this is not going to make them pay attention. So let's talk about how did I discover the power of relevant stories. Like when I was living in Bahrain, and one of my first jobs, I had to give a presentation to the CEO. And when I gave this presentation to the CEO, I went and I was asking for something that would have changed my whole career. This was something that could have made a big difference in my life. And I was I went there and I just spoke and I told him, this is what I want, this is it, etc. And he could have changed the whole course of my career, but I messed it up badly. And here's why. The CEO just lost interest when I was speaking. He just lost complete interest. And I was like, why? What happened? What went wrong for him to lose interest? And so I went to one of my colleagues afterwards, and he was like, listen, Muneer, you may have spoken well, but the challenge is you just spoke about yourself. You did not relate to what the CEO wanted. You didn't even consider what he wanted, and so it was not relevant to him, and so he just tuned out. And I learned the power of having a relevant story, because that's when people will really pay attention. And you can find the care that people have, or you can create it. So I'm going to be talking to you about 7 ways that you can create this, find the relevance. So let's get cracking. Number one. So number 1 is, if you're speaking to someone, listen to what they're talking about, and you'll start to see little needs that they have, little challenges that they have, and then you can utilize that. So if you're looking to tell a story that's relevant to someone, the first place is find out what's going on, like listen, and typically people will share with you what's relevant in their life right now. And you can piggyback on something that they are speaking about and then tell a story. So that's number 1. Number two is, if you have an audience that's there already and you can't listen to people, etc., before you get into your topic, create a need. Talk about problems that may arise if they don't do what you're going to be talking about. So create that desire, create that need by talking about the problems that people may have. Why should they care before you just give them the bit of information, before you give them the advice? Why should they care? Create that need by highlighting some of the challenges that exist that they may not be aware of. So that's number two.
Number three.
Number three is using universal experiences. And universal, this could be universal challenges, etc. What are universal experiences? Well, if you're talking about something that is relevant to everybody, and the reason I have this picture here is because everybody sleeps, everybody eats, and so those are universal experiences, right? That's that. So if you're starting to talk about something that's universal, it's going to be more appealing to your audience because it is relevant to them, even though you haven't had to create a need, you haven't had to listen to them, but you know it's relevant to them because it's relevant to everybody, right? It's not just relevant to you. So it's relevant to everyone. So use universal experiences. That's number three.
Number four.
Number four is knowing their challenge. So even if, in number one, I said, listen to what are their challenges, right? Listen and observe. Now, let's say you know somebody very, very well and they fall asleep at work often. You don't need to listen to them saying their challenge. You know that this is a challenge that they're facing. So you talk about that because you know it. You don't need to have them have said it up front. If you know somebody has a challenge, by talking about the challenge that you know that the person has, you are going to be able to help them overcome that. So that's number four.
Number five.
Number five, especially if you're a speaker and you are speaking to your target audience, you know what your target audience wants, you know what your target audience desires. Let's say, so for me, my target audience are coaches, speakers, and leaders. So I have an idea of what their needs are. And so when I speak or when I talk or when I teach or when I train, I will talk about what are the desires of my target audience. What do they want? If you want to have a bigger impact. And so I will talk about what it is that you want and help my target audience with that. So I don't need to listen. I don't need to know what your specific challenges. I know my target audience and I can talk about the challenges of my target audience or the desires, etc. So that's number five.
Number six.
Number six, look at what's topical. What is going on in the news right now? What's going on in the global news, in local news? Let's say I'm in the UAE and I go to speak somewhere in the UAE and I can start talking about the lockdown that's just happened, for example, or the fact that the schools are closing or opening or whatever it is. I'll talk about what's topical in that moment because that is in the news and that is relevant to your audience, for example. Okay, so find out what's going on in the news at that moment in time. And
here's number seven.
And number seven is if you know somebody that your audience respects, okay, somebody that is let's say a celebrity to your audience and they have a high regard for your audience, you could just tell a story about that person and embed some kind of great advice in there. Because they respect that person, they are likely to take that advice on board. So find someone that they know well, someone that they care about, and then you can find relevancy in that for them. Omar, what's up, man? Great to see you, buddy. I love the way you're bringing in the numbers. Thanks, man. I thought I'd mix it up a little bit, add a little bit of flavor to everything. Miwa, what's up? How you doing? Great to see you. I haven't seen you in ages. Hello. What time is it in Japan? It must be like either really late or really early, something like that. So, but always a pleasure to see you, Miwa. Thanks for tuning in. Cool. So that is it. So those are the seven ways that you can find relevant stories. And when you find relevant stories, you create a bigger impact in your audience's lives. So, and I want you to think of this, right? A story with no relevance denies attention to be prevalent. If you have no relevancy in your stories, you are not, it's not going to be remembered. You won't have the impact that you deserve to have. So create stories with relevance if you're telling a story, and it will go further, faster, and give you that impact that you so deserve. Me was saying, okay, it's 10:15. All right, cool. I like that. Okay, so yeah, not as late as I thought. So that's awesome. All right, cool. Well, with that, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate you all. If you have not, hit the subscribe button, and I will see you on another episode real soon. If you are on YouTube, where is it? Here. You should have a couple of links to other videos that you can check out. Other than that, I want to thank you all for tuning in. Peace out, one love, and I will see you on another episode real soon. Peace out, one love. Catch you guys soon.